Now, the last 1 week has not been a pleasant one on our roads. There have been several road crashes, leaving some persons dead and many more injured. Some of them are still battling for their lives. All these are happening in spite of many interventions rolled out by the National Road Safety Authority, the media, especially JoyNews. With our Arrive Alive campaign, among others, you could expect that this would have stopped, but it hasn't. Well, today we're taking a big pause to reflect on the factors which are making it impossible or, well, difficult to keep our roads safe. We have the National Road Safety Authority joining us for this conversation shortly. But first, let's give you a sense of how road crashes have devastated this country the past 1 week alone. So on the 10th of September 2020, there was one on the Tema motorway here in Accra. The 12th, which is 2 days after Betoi Volta region, 5 people died, 4 people were injured. 3 days after that, Chichire, that's the Accra-Kumasi highway in the eastern region, 17 people died and as many as 50 people were injured. Again, on that same day, Gomwa Adam, Accra Cape Coast highway, 6 people died and several others were injured. Count back to 4 days after that day, in Offenso near Ashanti region, 6 people died, young footballers, 30 of them were injured. On the 19th of September, which is just this weekend, 2 people died in Kaswa. A driver and the conductor of the vehicle died when they were making a U-turn in the middle of the road and got crushed by a tipper truck. We'll tell you also about the story in Wale Wale, which happened also over the weekend, which involved some police officers, about 4 of them. 1 of them died on the spot. Another was in coma, is still in coma, I should say, in hospital, and 2 of them were severely injured. Now, these are just figures that you see here. It may still not mean anything to you. Those are numbers, but they represent human lives. A mother, a father, a son, daughters, brothers, a wife, even friends. Well, just last Sunday, a driver and his mate, like I indicated, they had decided to make that simple U-turn, you can call it. But that turn happened to be the very last one for them. This incident happened at Kaswa. Latif Idris reads this report.
According to eyewitnesses, the Ford transit vehicle was making a U-turn at Big Apple when it was crashed by the Winneba-bound tipper truck from Kaswa. Eyewitnesses say the tipper truck was driving at top speed. Here are some eyewitnesses narrating what they saw.
Nipa 2, mate and a driver, and a normal car.
The driver and his conductor were in the car, then started doing a U-turn to the other side of the road. The tipper truck was also coming with top speed at the other side and ended up crashing the van. It happened almost a minute to 4 at dawn.
Almost a minute to 4.
I had woken up preparing to go to work. I heard a loud noise and we saw the collision between the tipper truck and the van. We then saw the driver's body move to the passenger side of the van. We could not open the door, but forced to get the driver out. He had collapsed. Someone raised an alarm for us to check if there were other people in the car. We then looked under the car and saw someone's legs hanging. We realized later it was the driver's mate. The driver's mate died on the spot, while the driver was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. This is the second accident in this area in less than 5 days. 6 passengers died on the spot after the vehicle they were traveling in were involved in a head-on collision at Gomwa Adam, near Gomwa and Taze on the Kaswa Cape Coast highway in the central region.
So 23 last week, and then by the weekend, 9 people had also died. Well, I pray you won't be in this situation. But then we need you to support in addressing this particular problem of road accidents. They're caused by human beings, as was evident in during the lockdown. Because during the lockdown, the figures were dramatically reduced. Let's all arrive alive. Joining us via Zoom right now is David Osafo Adontain, Director in charge of Planning and Programming at the National Road Safety Authority. Mr. Adontain, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my dear.
So, are you surprised with the figures you're seeing right now? Just last week, you have to add 23 to the 9 that happened between just Saturday and Sunday. That's pretty alarming.
Yes, you're right. Good afternoon to all our cherished listeners or viewers. And I know that we are not in good times at all, considering the series of crashes that were recorded in the past week or 2 weeks. Put together, the number of persons who've lost their lives is in excess of 30. If the figures you are mentioning to go by, and what we have here, the police are telling us that we are in excess of 30. It could be 31, 32. But even if it is 1, we're still not comfortable. We're still not happy. But the trend is not surprising. In this period, if you look at the past, the trend has been about the same. When you hit September, going into October, November, and December, we always hit these periods as we declare them as a period that is not the normal period for us at all. You know what Christmas means to Ghanaians, and you know what goes into it. People are very anxious to prepare themselves. They want to make money. They want to do business, to go travel across the country, going to arrange for their products to sell. And so you find some drivers taking advantage of that opportunity to also maximize their revenue or their income. And they end up misbehaving, not complying with the rules and regulations on the road. And this is usually the outcome of it. So we are not comfortable. I mean, we are worried. So it's a bad situation for us.
During the lockdown period, I think somewhere from March till say August or a little earlier, we had a conversation where it was indicated that the lockdown period seemed to have recorded very low accidents, and we're all excited about it. Based on what you have just said, we know the trend and how it goes. Get into Christmas, get into election. How do you respond to the thoughts that the National Road Safety Authority perhaps went to bed because the figures from the lockdown period looked good?
Rather, without the National Road Safety Authority's intervention, together with our stakeholders, the situation would have been worse. And during the lockdown period, in spite of the COVID pandemic and the risk, the National Road Safety Authority did not go to sleep. We were still working. We were still engaging some groups. The good thing was that there was not much of vehicles coming onto the roads to ply their various businesses. There were few people in town, and in some cases, there were no people at all because we're all locked up in our rooms.
Yeah.
And automatically, naturally, if you have vehicles not interacting with people or human beings on the road, then you will find the figures coming down. And that is exactly what happened. Now, it was when His Excellency the President, of course, opened up and the lockdown, now we were all asked to go by and it was opened up. This is what happened. People have taken the law into their own hands now. And they are operating as if there's nothing at stake. I perhaps see it that some people think whatever they lost during the lockdown, they want to make it up. So now they are making it up at the expense of people's lives.
So what is
they are not realizing.
So what is the National Road Safety Authority's plan, deliverables in the scheme of affairs? Mr. Dante?
The National Road Safety. No, I'm here.
Yes. Please go ahead.
You can hear me.
Yes, please.
Yes. The National Road Safety Authority in the past number of months now, since March after the lockdown, we stood on our grounds. Now, we partnered with the media in particular. We have a lot of engagements with the Ghana Journalists Association. We have taken a lot of platforms of the media houses, including yours, and look at how we're working together for life campaign. And on the ground, especially in the regions, districts, and rural areas, are engaging Ghanaians. The police have also taken up the challenge, and they are on the streets and on the roads. They are also doing their bit of enforcement. We think that together, education and enforcement has been very high in this past number of months. I think what is difficult for us now is the people to accept the challenge and to discipline themselves.
I see.
That is the difficulty we are having. And I'm talking about how drivers in particular hit the road and not complying with the rules and the regulations, especially that regards speeding and wrongful overtaking. The recent crashes, if you look at the circumstances leading to the crashes, as regards some of the revealing factors of the investigation, we have speeding being very high, travel speeds very, very high, and most of them wanting to go quickly to overtake. You have a particular driver on a highway, want to overtake 3-4 vehicles at a time.
That's because they know nothing is going to happen to them. Nobody is monitoring. We talked about speed cameras. The National Road Safety Authority mentioned speed cameras. That hasn't happened, and they know that over here in Ghana you can jump the red light as many times as possible as long as there is no police station there. They know nothing will happen to them. In that case, would you say the authority has not met or its deliverables?
If you look at mandates, the National Road Safety Authority, we don't install speed cameras.
It was part of a program you mentioned you were embarking upon, wasn't it?
Yes, we're coming. So we also don't fix roads. So people get it wrong. Sometimes they think that if the roads are bad, for example, people are talking about dualization of our major highways. And the thing is the National Road Safety Authority that should come and do the dualization. No, we don't do dualization. But we are advocating for. Okay. And we have been at the forefront. We are at the forefront under the Arrive Alive campaign, using the multimedia and other media houses to call for the dualization of our highways. Indeed, if you look at the kind of awareness creation, the sensitization and education, it is very high.
And we should have some reaction. We should have some positive response to that, I believe. Ms. Adonte, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but this is certainly a conversation we'll have. And I used to say that sometimes I run out of questions when there are more accidents, because sometimes you just don't know what else to ask. But hopefully we'll find a solution, especially on this Chichi Railroad where, just about 2 accidents happened in 1 week. It doesn't make sense. Hopefully we'll look at that and more. Ms. Adonte, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.